So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over a quick topic test with a collection of GCSE exam style questions on quadratics at foundation level. Now a copy of the questions for you to have an attempt at before watching this video will be available for you to download by clicking on the link in the description, which I strongly recommend you do to see how much understanding you have on this topic. Now it's worth mentioning before we get started on this test that the questions are deemed to be non-calculator. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 is asking us to rearrange this formula to make C the subject. So what we'll do is we'll have C equals as our final answer. So from this, let's have a look. So we need to get rid of the 12 first. That becomes D minus 12 equals 3C. And then we divide everything by 3. So then it becomes D minus 12 over 3 equals C. So C equals D minus 12 over 3. Or you could write it as D over 3 minus 4. So any of those two answers, however, I'd say the first one's probably going to be the most common. Moving on to question 2, it says simplify fully. So what we need to do first is expand this out. Now, when we've got a power outside a bracket, we need to cube everything that's inside the bracket. So this is going to be 2 cubed, which is 8, and then x cubed, y cubed, multiplied by 5, x to the power 5, y to the power of 3. Now remember that although there's no multiplying in this, what this becomes is 8 times 5 times x3 times x to the power of 5 times y cubed times y cubed. So then looking at these individually, we've got 8 times 5, which is 40, then x cubed times x to the power of 5, so we add the powers, so that becomes x to the power of 8, and then we do the same with the y's, so 3 plus 3 is 6, so it gives us 40 x to the power of 8 y to the power of 6. Moving on to question 3, which says to get the expression in each brick, add together the two expressions directly below it, complete the algebra pyramid. So if we add these two squares here, then that becomes 10a squared. Now if I want 17a squared b squared, what do I need to add 10a squared to get that? Well, I'm going to need another 7a squared, and I'm also going to need a b squared. So then if this block here is 6a squared, then I'm going to need another a squared, and I'm going to need a b squared, and there is our algebraic pyramid completed. Moving on to question 4. So here we're factorizing this quadratic expression. So I want two numbers that multiply together to give me minus 7, added together to give me 6 or minus 6. Now there's only one option with 7. It's going to be 1 and 7. So I've got x, 7 and 1. And if I just write 7 and 1 in there. Now looking at the signs, this is the sign of the bigger number. So it's going to be minus 7. And because the second sign is, or the sign of the constant is negative, it means the signs are going to be different. So it's going to be minus 7 and plus 1. And again, you can write those brackets in any order you wish. Moving on to 5a, so we're expanding the brackets. So again, using loops or using a grid, whichever you prefer, we should have y squared minus 9y minus 5y plus 45, which gives me a final answer of y squared minus 14y plus 45. Then with question 5b, it says hence or otherwise simplify root 2 minus 5 root 2 minus 9. Give your answer in terms of root 2. Now where the hence comes from is, if you look at a, all you're doing is replacing y with root 2. Now you can do that, so every time I see a y in my final answer, so that's going to be root 2 squared minus 14 root 2 plus 45. Now root 2 squared is going to be root 4, which is just 2. So that becomes 2 minus 14 root 2 plus 45. And then if I add those two things up together, I get 47 minus 14 root 2. And there is my final answer. Another way of doing it is you could obviously just multiply out the brackets and simplify, but I would say where the hence comes from, that's where it does. Moving on to question 6, it says the teacher uses the following formula to work out how long it takes to mark homework. in T minutes, where H is the number of pieces of homework. Work out the time taken to mark 30 pieces of homework. So let's have a look at this. So what we need to do is do T equals, so basically we've got H equals 30. So it's going to be 12 times 30 plus 5. Now 12 times 30, again, you can use any form of multiplying you wish. You can use a column method, use a grid method. It's entirely up to you. But let's just quickly do that. So it's 360. So we've got 360 plus 5. So it's going to be 365 minutes. Moving on to question 7, it says rearrange x squared equals h squared minus y squared to make h squared the subject. So what we want to do is we want to take the y over to the side, so we get x squared plus y squared equals h squared, and then we just simply square root. So h equals plus minus x squared plus y squared, and there is my final answer. Then moving on to our final question, it shows that, and then we've got 3x plus 5 multiplied by x minus 1, take away 2x plus 3, and then x minus 1, and we're going to show that equals the same as x minus 1, x plus 2. So there's going to be a lot of expanding that we need to do here. So let's first of all, let's color code this. So looking at this first, let's expand those two brackets out. So we get 3x squared, and then minus, now I'm just going to probably just jump ahead in terms of the marks. I'm just going to simplify in its core form. So that's going to be minus 3x plus 5x, which is going to be plus 2x, and then minus 5. Then if I expand this out, so let me just stick the minus there, and then expanding this pink side, I'm going to end up with 2x squared, and it's going to be plus x minus 3. And if I then multiply this out, I get x squared plus x minus 2. So then what we then need to do is simplify all of this. So I've got 3x squared plus 2x minus 5 minus 2x squared minus x plus 3. And then from simplifying all of this, I get x squared, and then it's going to be plus x minus 2, which equals the same as this. Now, alternately, what you can do is once you get to this stage here, you could actually go on to factorize this. So that becomes 2x minus 1, x plus 2. And again, that shows with then you won't need to then write down what's written in red. That would be absolutely fine. So any of those two to conclude that the left hand side equals the right hand side is going to be absolutely fine.